Hey everyone, we're back. This has been a little bit of a chaotic afternoon for me, actually. So, diving in, track 3 from the Pulsar 2020 Hz EP that was released last month on Deadbeats, and we're going to break down High Street 2020. I've got my iPads here, ready to answer any questions anyone has with like Twitch and Facebook and YouTube all open. So hopefully I can answer any questions that people have as we go through this track. So here we go. Let's start. So the very first thing you hear is this audio recording called Noise. And I'd used, for this track, a lot of sounds from the Electron Digatone keys and also the Arturia Drum Brute Impact. And you're going to see a lot of audio. Yes, there's some MIDI in here as well, but there's a lot of audio in this production. So this is an edit that I did. Of a recording. I've got the little radiator going on here just to add some depth and a little bit of saturation. You can hear I have it really mixed down, so cranking the heat setting but pulling the mix back practically to it's 100% the dry signal. I've got a reverb going on here from the Soft Tube SAR TSAR1, which is mostly early reflections, just adding a little bit of depth to the sound. I don't think I threw an EQ on here and I didn't even use it. And then I've got, this is my Fab filter, basically just to have a low pass filter here at the end in the transition. And there's a high-pass filter that crosses as well. So these two crossing filters at the end of that section going into the drop. Let's jump up here and take a look what's going on. This is an opening drum beat. Actually, this is from this guy, which is sort of plugged in right now. The Model Samples Electron. Can you see it? Yes, you can kind of see it. So this is just something I recorded quickly, programmed in. And all the sound is coming directly from the Model Samples. You can see that there's no processing going on. Here's the original MIDI that's going out. It probably was just, I programmed it originally on this Arturia Drum Brute Impact track. I used the iConnect MIDI 2 Plus interface to send MIDI out. So the MIDI was sent out and then audio back into the box for recording purposes. Let's keep moving here. So this is like my gang, if you will, of just things, sounds to kind of transition this material. So we get this. So all these sounds are just working together to create a texture. There's not too much interesting processing going on. Here's a high pass filter. There's some delay on the vocal. You can hear. Without it, you get this kind of. So you got a nice little dub delay happening. What else is happening here? nothing. Like literally, there's a delay on this. That comes later in the production though. So just using a whole bunch of found sound samples, things that I made, things that are just from sample packs and what have you, in here to kind of create the texture for this production. Okay, so that brings us into the drop here. We also have this break that's been sliced, which is the fill, which is a fill. Sounds like it's from some drum break. So let's talk about this main section here. So this is the main electron parts. So this is from the digatone keys as well. So you can see I made a bunch of sounds. And recorded them in, and then chopped up the sections that I like. You know, if I pull this out here, you're gonna see that this is, yeah, a little bit longer. There's a whole bunch of stuff happening here. So all of these sounds are just being chopped up to fit into the grid where I want them to live in the production. Let's take off all the processing and hear what's happening with it dry. So let's just listen to this section here. It's really quiet first. Then I hit it with a huge amount of decapitator. Actually, not that much. Pretty average, actually. A little bit of EQ to kind of tame those extreme high frequencies at the top end. Get rid of all the bass, because I'm going to have lots of bass in this production. Some reverb from the SB 2016. And then I'm using the sausage fattener just to crank up the gain. Probably getting something different than if I push the volume here. Yeah, you hear that? It's a lot less like girth to it. There you get that that growl at the bottom end, which is really nice. So that's why I use that processing. Why I have this cut onto another track is it could be a lot of reasons. There could be some changes to the actual processing here. Could have came from another take too. Sometimes when I do things on different takes, I'll just put them on another track, just kind of keep track of things. Up here at the top, the main elements of the beat, other than the amen break, which we'll get into, is coming from this drum brute performance. And if you're not familiar with the drum brute impact, basically you can send MIDI to it, you can bang on the notes, bang on the pads, if you will, but the pitch control, you can't send pitch information from your DAW or whatever. You have to manually turn the pitch knob. So a lot of these passes will be me playing it and banging on the actual pads and then turning the knobs to go along and change the pitch. Shout out to everyone joining in. No comments yet, but yeah, thanks for watching and taking part. This is fun. So here's what I got on the actual plugins on the Drum Brute patch. So it's a cool sound. I did do a little bit of X noise on here just to clean up the signal a little bit. You'll hear there's a little bit of dirt that's being cleaned up with that. Then I've got an EQ. Actually, no, it's gate. Sorry, gate. That's basically for these blank spots, right, where there's nothing happening. Sometimes analog stuff can give a little bit of noise in there. You might not be able to hear this over the internet, but occasionally you'll find that there's a little bit of just electrical noise or just something happening. You know, I mean, it's so quiet. You can see on the radar here, the little meter, that there's something happening. So what I like to do is I like to get rid of all that stuff that I don't need. So as you can see, the gate just completely negates all that stuff. So it's just there as a safety measure, if you will. Then I've got my EQ. This is a weird EQ curve, kind of using all sorts of stuff going on here. Got a little boost here at 100-ish hertz, kind of bring out the pop. I'm taming all the top end, because if you remember from the last video, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll tame, then increase the gain, then tame it back again. Same thing with I do with transient detectors. So what I can do is I can hit the signal a little bit harder, but I've tamed the transient here a bit, like the drum hit, the click, if you will, of the beater is being tamed first. Then what I'll do is recompress it, so I'm basically flatten it back out. So I'm using the soft tube FET compressor. I really like this one when I'm going for like a cleaner kind of FET style. I will also use the purple one if I want something a bit dirtier. So that's just to control the dynamics. I've been using the drummer, and I use this on the last track as well, just to kind of clean up the signal. This is usually like a mastering type of compressor limiter, but what I'm using it for here, hear how much gain I'm getting out of it? I'm boosting the level about 5 dB in general, 4 or 5 dB, but I'm getting this like clarity and length to the notes that I'm getting back. Then I've got a Pultec style EQ on here to increase the bass. That's all I'm using it for here. I've got a little bit of push-pull action at 60. Not sure how well that comes across unless you're listening on monitors. Right? It has a little bit of extra grit at the bottom end. Just a little bit of that, what I've kind of tamed back here to help bring out all the transients and to kind of flatten the tone. And then just to control the dynamics at the top, I've got an L2 max limiter, which is maximizing my volume, which is getting me that huge, big volume on the top end. So that is what's happening with the drum brute. And once again, it's just trial and error, banging on the keys and figuring out like what you can get out of that production. I mean, I think that this thing is amazing for analog sounding drums. If you haven't noticed, I've been using it a ton. And it's all over the Rowena EP I did last year as well. It just sounds fantastic. So then we got that combined with the electron sounds. And then we've got basically this kind of random section in here, which is all sorts of hats and fills and snare drums. And a lot of this is coming from Atlas, which I use to organize all of my samples. There's a lot of these things popping up nowadays. There's free ones, there's paid ones. Atlas is just uses artificial learning, organizes your drum hits and your basically your one-shot samples into this map. And like I can basically zoom in and find where that kick sits on the map. And that's actually falling into other, because it's just what it analyzed it as. And what you can do is you can find sounds around it that sound similar. So if you're looking for something that's like a long snare, all of them will be near each other. And you can load them into the individual slots. Now, obviously, this has decapitator, and crystallizer, and sausage fattener on it. But if I just find I like randomizing things. I hate going through a list of snare drums and just going click, click, click. It's like my least favorite thing in the world. So what I do instead is I use something like Atlas, click random. I like this sound. I'll save that, and I'll randomize the other things and just try to get something that I like and then force it into the production. If it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. Then of course there's like things that you want to use. Like I want to use the Amen break, so I'm going to use that in my production. But a lot of times with kicks and snares, I try not to think about it. There's some backwards. Let's see if there's anything important. Nah. So there's some kind of fading in hi-hats just to add snare, which is being hit by Decapitator. That's just destroying it. I use the crystallizer. You can hear that pitch decay. And then cranking up the gain. So all that is adding to the texture of what's happening with the Amen break. And the Amen stuff I have in here, I think this is Contact, yeah. So what I've done is I've loaded one of my favorite versions of the Amen that I have, and I've made a Contact instrument out of it for this production. I've used it on other productions as well. And what it's basically just allows me to use the Contact engine for doing all of this. So I've got the Amen break pitched across, or basically across the keys here. And then after that, I can adjust and play around with all of the Pro options for the Time Machine Pro. And those things include things like the speed and the form and shift. And you'll see over here, tuning and speed have been assigned to host parameters for automation. So if I bust open the Amen here, thanks for following me, Stalwart. Stalwart? Yeah. Appreciate it. This is fun. I love doing this stuff. You'll see all this stuff shows up, the tuning and the sustain, and all of this is automated inside the host. Notice I'm not using the kick drum from the Amen because I've got the kick from the drum brute. So when I play them together, so that's creating that rhythm. And then you have all of these other things, these other percussive elements adding into, sorry, I don't want to use the Electron. I just want to use these. So what's happening on the Amen break? We've got, let me turn off all the solos and just open this up. I'm getting rid of all the bottom end, if there is any there. I'm using a little bit of transient master. I just use whichever one is. I go through phases where I'm like, I like this one, I like that one. Sometimes it's the Waves one, sometimes it's the SPL one. It just really depends. I was in a phase where I was liking the Native Instruments one here. Pull the sustain back. Without this in here, let's get rid of these other things. You'll hear, let's put the gain up. Hear that attack? It's like over the top. It sounds wrong. It sounds bad. So what I'm going to do now is flatten it using compression. That's just to help to get that accent. Right? Immediately. And I'm using the Logic compressor in the Studio VCA setting. Why not? Right? Sounds good. Did the trick. Hear how that just completely tamed the transients? Those transients were insane before, but now I'm just going to like pull it back. But it's got a much better sound. If I remove those two, I know the volume isn't exactly the same, but it's got more life, it's got more juice to it, and that for me is what I want to get out of that production wise. This is cranking up the gain a little bit. I mean, I love these plugins that just kind of like do things, you know. I use it all the time. Yeah. Here's another EQ. I probably heard that this frequency here, 7K, was kind of driving me a little crazy, so tame it down a little bit. Yeah, a little bit harsh. And then I've got a little bit of a reverb. Really, really subtle, using the Eventide SP 2016 with the high density plate. It's mixed in 6%, but you can really hear it, right? Without it, there's width. Just adds a little bit of spice to the production, which I think helps. Boom. Alright, so how did I make that sound? So that's the drum root. But I believe it's being stretched out like crazy. Yeah, so I've got polyphonic stretching on this, and I've got a different processing chain, slightly different processing chain. That's just one of the hits. Boom, just stretched out. And for the electron, once again, it's just a slightly different variation. And notice I'm using the flex markers to kind of move it into place as well. Get it right where I want it, you know. This is like right on the grid. This is a little off the grid, on the grid. So I'm just using them to kind of place the audio samples that I've created. Did audio stop working again? Someone just told me that audio isn't working. Oh my gosh, why does it do this? I don't understand. I truly don't understand why. It doesn't make any sense. It's back again. It just stops working. This happens. This has happened 3 times out of the 4 times I've streamed now. So hopefully, yeah, sorry, I don't know how long ago that was, but for some reason, I'm using an Apollo X4, and I don't know why with Streamlabs, sometimes it just disappears. The audio just literally disappears from my computer. I just don't understand why. So, okay, so you didn't hear any of the stuff I was talking about regarding the amens, sorry. But let me just kind of, I'll walk you through it because you heard me talking through the microphone. I'm using an Apogee Mic Plus 2 here just so I can talk. If I play this back, it's a lot quieter, obviously. That's the thing I was talking about. The transient is over the top and sounds horrible, so what I do then is flatten it out with compression. Let me bring it down to the volume it was at before. How the snare just kind of cracks a little bit better. So I'm blasting the transients out to a point which is like unusable, and then using compression to kind of pull it back and tame it back again. And then with the extra reverb just to pull out 75K or whatever it was, and I'm sorry, the EQ. And then I've got this plate, just add some depth. Gotta figure out why the audio just messes up all the time. It's stupid. It just doesn't make any sense. Literally doesn't make any sense. So all this is just variations. It's literally me just having fun banging on the instrument, right? I'm trying to create just some production that utilizes the samples I have from the Digatone keys, the drum brute impact, drum parts, which are literally, you can see, it's just me banging. There may have been some MIDI at some point in time that I recorded, so like sometimes I'll just bang it out live and then move things around if my timing's off. Sometimes I'll program MIDI and send it to it, because that then gives me 2 hands so I can turn pitch and decay and stuff at the same time. Because if you're banging out notes, then you only can turn one knob at a time. But if you listen to this, it's pretty raw. Right, there's like a couple edits in there. You can really hear out that crash cutoff. You know, I like those kind of dirty sounds. Like that obviously had to be me either taking like my fingers and like turning 2 knobs at once, or just programming in the MIDI. Like you see, there's a whole bunch of MIDI tracks here that these could have been moved around. I also have things I didn't end up using in the production right in the back here. So like this. Whoops. Those are just nasty sounding 808-ish kick drums. Right? So the first 8 bars or so is all this kind of randomized stuff. So this is a mini Moog. This is recorded as audio. All that's going on with this is a compressor with sidechain on it, so you can see just pumping on those kick drum hits. So that's the tuning going up there. I don't think I'm messing with the speed at all in that section, but no, just the tuning. Grime kit. I wonder what that does. Yeah, you know where that claps from. So this production is a lot of, I sometimes love using hardware, and then the problem is, like, if you don't get it all, like what you might want to use in a production later, it becomes challenging because you can't ever make those sounds again. Even if you write the patch down, it's never going to sound the same. So this production, I did all this bass. This is using the Moog clone, the mini Moog clone. So this is all just played in. You can see the MIDIs right here. And that's what's going out of the computer to the machine, so I can turn knobs and record it at the same time. So what do we got going on here? Hey everyone joining. Josh, hey Brent, hey Greg. What's going on, everyone? So so this sound on its own is really cool. I mean, it's got a lot. Trying to get rid of the. Right, you can hear the depth, the detuning of the oscillators. So what I did is I wanted to get a little bit more of the hit on the initial transient. So once again, it sounds horrible on its own. That's what it's all about, I think, sometimes with these transient things. I also have the gate on here again. Once again, this is just to get rid of any analog noise, like when I'm not playing any notes. So as soon as the audio drops down, cuts it out, negative infinity. This also helps it to pop, because the gate is closing and it's not letting the sound through. When the initial hit happens in the next pattern, the next section, it almost snaps back out of place and you get that initial transient pop, right? Hear that little pop at the beginning? Right? That's helped by the gate as well as the transient master. Without it on, it doesn't have that extra little pop, that little sound in there, which is what I wanted to get. Cool. EQ. Really trying to tame that upper mid-range, lower mid-range. Yeah. Low. We're in the break point, 673 hertz. Just kind of getting rid of the ultra top end. Then I'm running it through Decapitator. This is on a dry wet of about 70% wet, 30% dry. Using one of the Culture Vulture settings. I just got a real Culture Vulture. I can't wait to use it. I haven't tried it yet. So this is adding width. So I'm using the chorusing effect on the TC Electronic. Basically, it's the EMT 250 clone that they made, and this is adding that digital width If you're listening on monitors or headphones, you can really hear how this widens out the track. The chorus on here is so good. It sounds amazing. Then what I've got here, limiter to kind of crank up the volume, and then after that, I'm adding a little bit of space. Once again, using the SP 2016. My favorite thing with this, once again, is the position. So if I increase the mix, and watch when I move the position. If I move it close, you're in the front of the room. Let's move you to the back of the room. Hear how it like kind of increases the pre-delay a little bit, but it also makes it like gives it a different tone. Let me make the pre-delay like nothing, non-existent, and bring it to the front of the room. Let's increase the decay. Hear how it kind of still has that like close reflection sound. Now I take it to the back of the room. It dramatically changes it, right? Like it's positioning the sound source in the front of the room or the back of the room, which is really, really cool. Hey, Sean, thanks for joining. Trying to see what's going on here. So that's, I don't remember what this was. I'm going to have to, this is just the demo version. So, but it's something like that. How the decay changes on the position. It's really, really cool reverb. Highly, highly, highly recommended. If you're a student, they have a student discount version too. So there you go. So that's happening. And then I'm doubling that with a Serum patch. So the Serum patch is giving me the top end. That's why you had on here the top end getting rolled off pretty harsh, right? I don't need that because I'm going to use this Serum lead patch. Now this was started as a preset called Hardstyle Lead. Once again, I don't know what this sounds like. I probably added the pitch, so I'm using envelope 2 to control the pitch of the semitone pitch of the A and B oscillators, which is right here. Right, so it just sounds awful on its own, but when you have the foundation of the bass playing with it, you hear the fundamental pitch a little bit better. Right, so let's check this out. It's got some OTT on it, mostly being used for downward compression to extend the tail. You can see there's some of that hyper dimension setting, which adds space in there in the production. There's reverb too, yeah. So I got a little bit of reverb happening here on the plate without the OTT. It decays faster. Doesn't sound as mushy, which is what I want. And then I've got a high pass filter, just getting rid of all the bottom end on here because the bass is going to be doing that. Right? So you combine, I'm using the same MIDI information probably, or close to it. And then of course there's all this other random stuff happening down here. Like these kinds of things. I tend to just put things on their own tracks because your computer can handle it. So why, if unless it's going to be like through the same exact effect process or something, I just get lazy and just like new track. That's a really cool reverse sound that's adding to the pitch. And then this one as well, which is giving you that pitch going in, which is really helpful. So this is a drum brute patch, which is some wild reverb on it. I've got it going through trash, I think, yeah. Actually, it's probably just the convolution. It's using this thing called Cracked Actor and Rectifier. So without it, yeah, with it on. It's just bizarre, right? Once again, I just have a new track for the drum brute here. It looks like it's the same. Maybe I made a little change, but for some reason I just created a new track to play along with it. We've got some slight variations. We got the bass changing here. I change colors when things change. I don't have a color scheme though. Right, different sound, different... MIDI's just a little different too, but it's got a totally different patch from the same MIDI mode clone. So that's a Serum patch with crazy amounts of reverb being upward compressed. This is just a simple square wave, it looks like, with the same kind of pitch modulation. Yeah, it's... sounds like some like Major Lazer-ish thing happening, but in the context of how I'm using it, it just adds this extra depth because you have the fundamental pitch from the bass patch, right? So that when they combine... You know, pulling the low end down on here because I don't want that to interfere. And once again, a little high pass filter action, just a little bump up at the top to kind of bring it out a little bit. I did something and changed the sound somehow because those sounds do not sound like the record. Say amen. Yeah, Logic's, I mean, they fix a lot of the automation, but some things are still funky. Like you start it in the middle of something and it just doesn't snap to where it's supposed to go. What's doing that? What's that doing that gabberish kick drum? Where is that? Where are you? There, here it is. That's a great sound. Similar stuff to start with. Another trash setting. I also have the crystallizer on. Let's take that off and take the trash off. Hear what it sounds like. Right, add the trash. That's getting that grit, and then the crystallizer is giving you those that pitch manipulation. Right, it's here in the top end. Without it, and it's mixed in 50-50. Let's mix it 100%. Right, you can really hear how that sounds. It's great. And then I've got another patch that's slightly different, right? So like there's, this first other, like everything that's kind of like adding on to the bass main patch, they're all variations of like Serum patches that I have that are just a whole bunch of them. You can see I use some other ones in the production later. So just stacking them, changing them a little bit, getting new ones, whatever it is. And a lot of the same kinds of approaches to the plugins and stuff. Like this one. With the OTT. Really just dragging out the reverb and the delay. A little bit of high pass filter, and then this is on here. Just to make it pop at the very beginning. You hear that? Just makes the first hit pop. Hates me. Hey Alicia, how you doing? So yeah, this is the Fairlight. It's the Arturia version of the plugin. This is the Moments in Love patch. Here's the same MIDI. As you can see, there's MIDI going out here. And this is from the Digatone keys, which is doubling with that. This is another Digatone keys thing. All I was doing is just adding a little bit of reverb. I love that synth. It sounds so good. Where's that sound? Yeah, down here there's some other things happening. There's these like atmospheric sounds. This almost sounds like a horn. It is. I just have it going through a stock reverb in Logic. Really lo-fi. See the volumes just cranked down. I probably cranked the decapitator and just pulled it way, way, way back in volume. So there's this SEM-ARP going on. The Redominator, which is used heavily in the last productions that I did so far from this album. This is a down pitch kind of thing that's happening from Serum. Let's hear what that sounds like. It's like a pluck. You can see the modulating the filter. Just adding things. Opening up filters. Love this snare. I love it. I have the reverb first and then the decapitator on the process on the punish setting. So it's just literally destroying the reverb tail as well as the original sound. Without it, just... Right, I love that. So there's this really nice moment here where things kind of get major and very pretty. Just that Digatone key pitch. Where's that coming from? It's just this pad. That's right. So there's this pad that comes in here. It's just kind of this chord. Once again, I could have recorded that. I have no clue where that's from. It could have been a sample library. It could have been a synth that I played. A drum break with tons of dubbed out tape delay on it. So this is the rave transition, if you will, with all these like sounds. They're all going through this transitional patch. So this is a group that they're going through, which has a Glitch Machines plugin on it. And it also has a sausage fattener on it, so you get without it. So just doing something. It's just mangling it up a little bit more than it was already. But that's my transition into the next drop. And then the second drop is very much like the first drop. It's just I'm playing all new patches, right? So like the drum brew is all recorded live throughout the entire production. You can see it was done basically in like 4 sections. So like section A, B, C and D. And then once again, the Amen breaks are just wilder. I'm muting a lot of the electron stuff in here, just kind of using that initial hit, that sound. And then using a lot more kind of random Serum blips and bleeps, if you will. There's this bass. That's hands down recorded from the mini mode clone. So without the processing, this is just doing a little bit to extend the sound. Decapitator is just giving it a little bit more gain, a little bit of grit. We've got the chorus again to give you that wide upper mid range. After that, just a little bit of gain control. Similar setting on the reverb. You can hear it's not on the bottom end, it's only on the top end. And then I had it on a bus. We're going through another larger reverb, which I have on a send. There's a little bit of the MIDI from the Amen. The drum brute stuff is just a little bit wilder, right? Kicks and snares. That sound you're hearing, the compression there, is from the distortion built into the drum brute. It's all coming out from this device, mono, and mono. And so the distortion circuit on here is going through everything. So you're hearing that pumping, that's from the analog circuit. It's not from something I'm doing. Yeah, I'm enhancing it a bit, but it's all coming from this machine, and that's just how it sounds. Hey Kendall, how you doing? Hope you're well. Yeah, my favorite, like, you know, these kinds of patches, which are just... This is doubling up with the mini mode's doing. Notice every time I open these up, they're just different. They're slightly different. They started on some preset, and then I changed it, and it's a lot of it's about coarse pitch manipulation, like, and literally destroying the pitch elements of the sound and stacking different detunes. You can see the blend. This has 11 unisons, right? So what you get is this crazy stack, and they're almost all the same volumes. So you lose the pitch element there, and you're still maintaining it from the bottom end of the bass. And the drum brute, to find the pitch, it's just literally turning the pitch knob so you find the pitch that works with what you're trying to accomplish. Right here in that hi-hat, that's really cool. The hi-hat, which is mixing with the Amen. So this part, you can see I'm getting excited. If you look down here at the bottom, right, this section is basically the same as this section, right? It's the same material. So we've got this. So this comes back, but it's just got a slight variation because all of the drum brute stuff is a little different. All of the synths that are happening alongside it are different. So you get that familiarity of that section, like the B section, if you will, coming back. But but you just change it up a hair, other elements doing things, adding an extra layer of synthesis on top just to kind of double up the sound. So it gets you back to like, I remember this part of the song, but it's just a little bit different. Like this guy's happening. I love this guy. This is amazing. Once again, Redominator. And it's just a little bit of compression, upwards and downwards compression, a little bit of EQ. All the amen stuff, you can hear that's all the automation of the speed, right? So all that's happening is this. Between those three things on the Time Machine Pro setting, you can get a lot of variation. My computer hates me. That was not where the Foreman setting was. I forget where it was. Sorry. So the ending of this is some bizarre sample or recording. This isn't being pitch shifted or stretched. This is bizarre. I don't know where this came from, but you can hear it's coming through. It's got a little bit of reverb, a second reverb that's longer. This had to have been processed. There's nothing in the world that sounds like that. I honestly don't know. I thought I would use like the halftime plugin or something on this, but it's not here. I honestly don't know. I'm sorry, but I can't tell you. What I think may have happened is that I did use halftime at some point in time. If you're not familiar, it's this guy. That's what it sounds like, but it's not here, so I'm not entirely sure. It could have been something that I just sent out into the modular and processed, or it could have come from the model samples. I'm not entirely sure. And then at the end, it's just that sound going through some reverb. You can hear there's some other things that... Right? So that was, and I mentioned this on last week, is that was the start of a Grand 4K, because I cut up those breaks and I was like, I really, really like this. So this session, I did a save as, and then started working on Grand 4K. That's the original recording of the drum brute, actually, that I used. Oh, that's what I played earlier. Yeah, so that's the original recording for that track. And I was like, this is a different song. I love this. I'll work on it. So this track was done before, right around, it was at the same time, because I think I was just started jumping back and forth between these two tunes. So yeah, I hope this was enjoyable to see. This is a totally, every record on this on this album. It's just totally different. And I think it's partially because I kind of have this, I just get bored with doing the same thing all the time. So I'm constantly wanting to change up what I'm doing and try new things. You know, I got a new piece of gear in the studio or whatever, and I want to try that out. And I want to try and use it in the production as much as I can. So this is a real nice combination of acoustic recordings or electronic, not acoustic recordings, but like actual recordings, audio recordings, and then MIDI working inside the mix. Let's see if anyone has any questions. If there's any questions, I don't think. Hopefully I didn't miss anything here. Hey Kayla, how you doing? I missed your comment from earlier saying making her want to open up Pro Tools. That's awesome. Yeah, I love watching these kinds of things when people do them, so I was just like, I'll start doing them too. So I'm going to do Firefuck, which will be the last track from the recent EP, and then I'm going to start going back and doing other tunes as well, just kind of break them up. You'll see how things change over the time. I also promised I would do a mastering one. I'm constantly changing what I use for mastering because I'll find something new that I kind of like, and I'll go with that for a while, and then I'll switch it back. I'll add a new piece in, new plugin. So that's going to be a slightly different video. But yeah, I'll do one of those as well. So I hope you all enjoyed a breakdown of High Street 2020. When I made this, I didn't think that 2020 was going to be as annoying as it is. But yeah, this record, it's fun. It's a fun one. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Till next time.